Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back. All right, here's what I want to do. I want to start off by I guess encompassing this episode by basically saying the following, that I think in the future, we have to visibly see things change. You've heard me mention again before in the past, all of the eyeball tests, so to speak, that are available to us, that we can look around and see things changing in a particular direction. And that would indicate to us that we are either winning or losing, or things are going in a particular direction that is desirable to us when it comes to freedom and independence and these things that we long for. There are a number of different scenarios out there. There's a number of different, of course, information avenues that exist where individuals can read and watch and listen and investigate and connect dots and do all of that. And it's frankly overwhelming because there's a great deal of information that is out there. My litmus test, however, is my eyeballs. If I'm not seeing particular things move in a particular direction, or see things disappear when they need to, or see things appear when they need to, then that's the indication to me that either something is happening or something is not happening. So let me give you a couple of examples. And again, I want to read a particular scenario here that was written on greatawakening.win. And I have some immigration-related things. Of course, we're being invaded, so it's not really immigration. It's an illegal invasion. And then I have some education things and jab-related things too. But I think all of this ties together. Because again, the overarching part here is that we have to physically see things change. So let me just, again, provide you a quick example to sort of wet your whistle. Because again, I think that there are numerous examples out there of things that we can see occurring in one direction or another. So ask yourself the following. Are you seeing 5G towers go up, or are you seeing them come down? Are you seeing more surveillance cameras at intersections, or are you seeing less? Are you witnessing more legal justice in a positive direction, or are you witnessing less of that? Again, it's one thing to watch the media and read media outlets. It's something completely different to see things with your own eyes. And if you're not seeing things, again, go in a particular direction that would indicate that we're winning, then it's going to be very difficult to assume that we're winning anything. I will say this. It's not an either-or kind of scenario. There are numerous scenarios, of course, that are all happening at the exact same time, and there's the middle way, I should say, also. Both things can occur on a constant basis. We can be losing one battle over here and winning many more battles over here on another side. We can lose battles over here, and we can win battles over here. Again, my whole litmus test has to do with the eyeballs. What are your eyeballs showing you? Are you seeing more homes for sale? Or are you seeing less homes for sale? Are you seeing more multi-tiered, multi-story apartment complexes be built within city environments? Or are you seeing less of that taking place? My overall point, too, is that whatever it is that we are seeing and whatever it is that is going on, and again, we have a pretty good grasp of what's really taking place, I think. Certainly, if you've been listening to this show for any length of time, then you're fully awake. But there have to be many other avenues in which we can see particular things moving in a particular direction. And again, I have no doubt that the enemy is putting their pedal to the floor, again, fifth gear. They're going as hard as they can right now on certain scenarios in order to see, again, how much they can push their agenda in the faces of the American public and the world public. And we know that. And we also know that the vast majority of us do not tolerate it whatsoever. So they don't mind if they crumble their own businesses because, again, that's part of their own plan. The people who work for those businesses don't know that. They have no idea that their employment does not matter to the people who are really in charge. They do not care about their well-being. They do not care about who they are. They are simply a number on a piece of paper, and that's it. Again, the K-12 system, the university system, your box stores, all of them, any corporation, they all operate the exact same way. They're not unique from one to the next. They all view the useless eater and the customer and the person who inhabits that environment, who soaks in whatever product it is that they're dishing out, they view them as a number. So, without ranting too much further on this, I'll say this, and I want to get into this business of, again, the illegal immigration, because this is one of those things that we should be able to see. And unfortunately, we are seeing more and more of it. Now, is it new? No, it's not. Illegal immigration has been something that that has occurred for a very long time. And again, frankly, it's human trafficking. That's all that it is. It's human trafficking. If government does it, it's called politics. But if we do it, and we aren't working for one of these government agencies that's been given immunity, well, then we go to jail. If you're caught with illegals in your basement, you go to jail. If you have no reasonable explanation as to why they are there, you're in jail for human trafficking. Doesn't matter their ages. They could be children, they could be adults, they could be Americans, they could be foreigners. You would go to jail. I would go to jail. But not anybody who's tied to government. They don't. They're supported. They're given money, they're given time, they're given all of the resources in order to illegally traffic human beings of all ages. So I want to mention this story first, and then I wanted to get into something more specific. This was from, again, the Gateway Pundit, but I'm just going to read the headline. It shouldn't shock anybody because, again, it's human trafficking. It's child trafficking. This was from this past week, and it was titled, "Former NYC Hotel Worker Claims That Illegal Immigrant Children Are Being Allowed to Drink and Do Drugs." This shouldn't shock anyone. This is common. This is what is going on. Because, again, someone who is inebriated, in particular a child, is easily trafficked. And they drug many of these children in order to traffic them. That's part of the point. But that leads to this. Sandy, who has been on the show before, along with Jesse James, at the exact same time as we've gone over a number of different issues, whether it be Ohio-related or Michigan-related, they've been on the show, and Sandy called me yesterday, and she said, "You got to get a load of this." And I said, "Lay it on me." And she said that she was picking up a friend of hers at the East Lansing Airport, East Lansing, Michigan Airport. And her friend is also, of course, tied into these chat boards that I'm involved in and Jesse's involved in too. But they were both on the phone with me, and what she ended up saying is that her friend was on a flight from Chicago to East Lansing, and there were approximately 15 illegal Afghans on this flight. And I put this out on Gab, and I've thrown the video up on the next war video, which you'll be able to see it also. But again, this isn't necessarily new, but it's something that is occurring all over the United States and has been for quite some time, certainly since Obama's era, if not before then. But in this particular case, they walked up to the group because they were evidently illegal. And they walked up to him, both Sandy and her friend, and they walked up and they said, "Who are you? Where are you from?" And they immediately, apparently, and this is all according to them, they immediately covered their lanyards. They all had lanyards, all 15 of them. And the lanyard that was around their neck had the logo of the St. Vincent Catholic Charity. Now, this is based out of Michigan. But the St. Vincent Catholic Charity openly admits on their Facebook page and their website, which is stvcc.org, that they are in the business of adoption, foster care, refugee services, and immigration law clinic. So they have no problem trafficking human beings. This is a Catholic charity. So, number one, there's your Catholic Church for you. Number two, charities. Whether they be separate, collective, it does not matter. These organizations do not have your best interests in mind. And again, anybody willfully participating in things like this is an idiot because they have no idea, and they're the useful idiot because they have no idea that they're allowing for this invasion to take place. They think that they are helping these children or helping these people. That is not what is happening, not by any stretch of the imagination. So, inside of the airport, they approached these people, like I said, and they said that there were, again, approximately 15 of them, and they ranged in age anywhere from 18 months to approximately 60 years old. Men, women, and kids. They said one of the men was actually dressed head to toe in all the Afghan burqa stuff, including the face covering, when normally that would be a female who would dress like that, but in this particular case, it was a man. And they said that a couple of the kids responded to him and said that they were from Afghanistan, and then they were quickly rushed away by one of their handlers. They also said that they all had those big square shopping bags that were filled with stuff, whether it be clothes or toiletries or whatever it may be. So again, they're being picked up in the airport and they're being given all kinds of things. Again, maybe cash, cell phones, who really knows? The point is that all of these organizations within the United States are willfully participating in human trafficking. Again, this is not a new thing. This is something that's been going on for quite some time. But I fully understand that when a person sees it with their own eyes, it is alarming. And certainly more so today than in the past. But again, this is another example of what we can see and versus what we cannot see. What is it that we're looking at as opposed to things that we've never seen before? And are things getting better or are they getting worse? Again, this is happening in every airport across the United States. These individuals, again, are not walking to the United States. Many of them are, sure. Plenty of them are just flat out being flown in. They're not being turned around. They might even fly in directly from the UK via Afghanistan. And then before you know it, again, it really doesn't matter where they're coming from. They're not Americans and they're not legal. But they're given safe haven here in the United States. So again, if it was you or me, well, we wouldn't be able to do this. We would be thrown in jail. But if you're a part of a Catholic charity or a Jewish organization, which you're going to hear in just a second, apparently it's okay. I have 2 audio clips here that I want to play. The first is from Savannah Hernandez, and she is in New York, and I believe in an airport, if memory serves. I'm just going to play the clip, and you can hear what she says and hear what she describes. In the second audio, it's Ben Berquam, and he is approaching these illegals who are standing in a line, and they are receiving information and given supplies and God knows what else from, again, a Jewish organization that is funding all of this and allowing this to take place. Again, when you think of these quote-unquote charitable organizations, one being Catholic, one being Jewish, one being this, one being that, just assume that they're all funded by the same people. First of all, the people donating to these charities and organizations, they know exactly what they're donating to. It's the people who control them, though. The people who control both denominations, they are not different. Those people are the same. And as you heard me say in the last episode, if you go all the way up that ladder at the very top, it's the devil. And then if you come back all the way down, you're right down to the basic human aspect of the useless eater and the useful idiot, who has no idea that what they're actually allowing for is their own destruction. Again, there have been endless examples of these dummies who support all of these programs, these violent programs and these illegal programs, and then it ends up blowing back on them where they themselves end up getting killed by one of the very people that they have allowed to enter their own country illegally. So here are the 2 audio clips back to back. Give these both a listen.
This is Savannah Hernandez reporting to you from the Port Authority bus terminal in New York City. And what you're seeing behind me is one of the areas where the illegal immigrants first come to when they make their way into New York City. Now, we know that once they cross the border, they are bussed further into the U.S. So what you guys are seeing behind me is, again, the first area that they come to. Just to run through some of those numbers with you guys, 60,000 illegal immigrants have made their way into New York City, with just last week 4,000 immigrants coming over this way. Now, city officials have also discussed how upwards of 500 migrants are coming in. We have, it seems like, National Guard here, and we're just trying to report on what is going on as the migrant crisis ravages this city. Can I help you with something, sir? No, not at all? Nothing you'd like to say? No? Okay, perfect. So we're going to keep on going with our report here about what is going on. We've been standing here and we've seen the migrants coming in through all day. You have another area upstairs as well. Because the crisis is getting so bad in this city, Mayor Eric Adams talking about now putting these illegal immigrants into public school gymnasiums where children are actively going to school. Of course, we are seeing a lot of pushback from parents who fear for the safety of their children. Now, of course, the city saying, well, this is just a temporary solution. It's not going to be permanent. But of course, many parents enraged about what is currently going on. So just giving you guys an example of what is happening in New York.
What was that? Oh, no, I can't. No, I can't. Thank you. What's your name? Who are you guys with? Jewish Family Services. So there we go. That's one of them. So why were you telling people not to talk?
Because you're being rude to them.
You're in a free country now. Yeah. Don't let people like this tell you what to do, okay? You're in a free country now. That's what America is, a free country. Is there anyone here from your organization that can talk to us? They're calling somebody. I'm sorry you guys have to see this. Unfortunately, a lot of the organizations that are pretending to help are just making money. These guys make money off of your suffering, unfortunately. So I'm sorry you have to see that. I was having some good conversations with people online. She went up and rudely told them not to talk to me. I asked her why they shouldn't be talking to me, and she said I was being rude to them. This is it though. You got these controlling communist organizations that then they have people come in through this process. They make money on all this. They get grants from the federal government, which you pay for, taxpayers pay for, and then the people come across. I want to talk to them. We're having a good conversation. And she shuts them down. This is the problem. These organizations are the problem, and they're making millions of dollars. And this whole new CVP1 application process, Biden and Mayorkas are pushing through. It's basically just a way to bypass and change the definition from illegal to legal. Can you tell me what the contract? How many millions of dollars Jewish Family Services is making?
Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
God bless you. God bless your family. All right. Yes, sir. All right. So there goes. That's the bus. Just did a quick live. Wanted to show people what's going on here. Again, in this case, it was Jewish Family Services that was given the contract, apparently, to continue the trafficking here. That's the bus heading out to a community near you. We are down here in San Ysidro, port of entry. You've got people coming across claiming fake asylum, turning themselves in, basically distracting Border Patrol and Customs. Then you've got, I've been told that Customs is now having to process. Border Patrol is picking people up, even if they came illegally. They're bringing them under the building here, and they're having Customs process them and basically apply for them for CVP1, and then they're sending them out as if they came through legally. While that's all happening, right up on this mountain, right behind us here, the cartel, while they're all distracted over here, every single night they're pushing people over this mountain and they're running down here, coming into the community. Last night, I was told that there was somebody came over the wall, they fell, they were injured, and while Border Patrol was responding, there were actually shots fired, as from what I understand, 10 shots fired at Border Patrol. Thankfully, thank God, nobody was hit, but that's the danger that we're facing here. This is what we're dealing with, and the sad thing is, these organizations that are profiting and aiding and abetting this invasion, they're claiming it's legal because they've changed the definition using the CVP1 app. It's still all illegal. They know it's all illegal. None of these people will qualify, but it doesn't matter because it just allows them to come in. So it gets them off the border, gets them out of the camps, makes it look like it's not a problem, and they send that problem to your neighborhood. That's what's happening here right now.
Where to begin? Where to begin? First of all, as I said, it's human trafficking. That's number one. Number two, Jewish Family Services is all over the United States. They are based in almost every major city in every state in the United States. Ohio has at least 3 alone. Right up 3C Highway. Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland. It's an abomination. The third thing, history does not repeat itself. People and organizations repeat themselves. Case in point, Jewish Family Services. Now, who funded the construction of slave ships from Africa to the United States? If you said Jews, you would be correct. Who owned those ships? If you said Jews, you would be correct. Who were the vast majority of the slave owners in the South? If you said Jews, you would be correct. Do you see the pattern here? Do you see what's happening? They're doing the same things that they've done decades and decades and decades ago, centuries and centuries and centuries ago. It's the same kinds of behaviors. These organizations, by the way, don't hire white people. They hire only Jews, and they hire only individuals who they bring in illegally to then continue to fund what it is that they are doing. Because, of course, as a spokesperson or as the face of your organization, you would need more than Jewish people. You would need the actual illegals that you are bringing in to look at other illegals and say, hey, look at me. I'm successful now. Why don't you come in too? And then, of course, have them speak multiple languages so that they can translate and so on and so forth. That was Ben Berquam from Real America's Voice in that last audio clip at the Texas border. I believe that was the Texas border. Ladies and gentlemen, these aren't Mexicans coming over. They're Africans. They're Africans. I'm not saying that there aren't Mexicans coming over. Of course there are. But this line that he was talking to, these dudes were just straight up Africans. We're being invaded. I guess. I mean, we're being invaded. You've heard me say again, in the town where I live, okay, University Town, Southwest Ohio, it's conservative. The vast majority of the people who live in the county that I live in are without a doubt conservative. You've heard me tell that story of 2 guys walking right through a gas station who were clearly African. They were not from around here. They didn't look like they were from around here. They were given stereotypical American clothes, a Nike hat and brand new sneakers and skin tight jeans and, you know, a jacket with a sports team on it. I mean, it's remarkably cliche, but they give them all of this stuff because they actually believe that these individuals will blend in. But they don't blend in. The town where I live is predominantly white. And then you had these individuals, again, as you heard me say a long time ago in that story I told, they do not adhere to sidewalks because they have no concept of what a sidewalk is where they come from. They walk through bushes, through cars, in between cars, in the middle of a parking lot, past gas tanks, and then they just walk in A to B lines, from A to B in a straight line. They don't crisscross, they don't curve around, none of that. It's like they can't even read a stop sign. They don't even know what stoplights are. This is how you can find these people. And again, in the town where I live, just within the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen Mexicans on intersection corners holding up signs thanking us for being kind, or, you know, God, it was awful. One particular day, there were 4 Mexican females standing at the corner, at all 4 corners of a major intersection in town, and they all had signs. One was on each corner. And the sign was so obscure. It was very well done. Somebody had clearly told them to hold it up. But it wasn't necessarily asking for money. It was, thank you, you're so kind. can you help? Something like that. That was it. It didn't say will work for food. It didn't say I'm homeless, need cash. None of that. And they were holding the sign with a big smile on their face. And then within 24 hours, they were gone. This is the kind of visual thing that I'm talking about. This is the kind of thing that we can see with our own eyes that will indicate to us that things are not right and that things are not being fixed and things are not going in a good direction. It is a battle we are losing. We are losing the illegal alien invasion war. This is one we are losing. Certainly, again, based on our intelligence and the kinds of things that we are shown and that we are seeing. Now, I understand again that entire line of thinking also exists within the Q posts. You're watching a show. This is a show. Well, I think that can be interpreted multiple ways. I don't think that it means, again, that we have to sit on our ass and do nothing and not pay attention. I think it's quite the opposite. We can see what's going on, and we know who the useful idiots are who are going along with it. This continues to be a massive problem, but it fits, again, under that giant canopy of what is it that we are seeing, and then are we winning or are we losing a specific battle or a particular battle. I don't, I know, and it's evident to me, I think that we are losing that battle. So let me just revisit a couple of other things here very quick. And then I'm going to make some comments here that I don't like the word controversial, but somebody's going to say, well, he can't say that. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I can say whatever the hell I want. It's my show. I fully understand that we've heard Donald Trump say, and again, he is the legal commander-in-chief. I have no doubt about that. But I've heard him say again that when he re-enters office, that he will activate the National Guard federally and round up all of the illegals and send them back. That has to happen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That has to happen. We cannot have these individuals in our country any longer. It can't happen. And I want to read this because, again, there are parts of this I agree with and parts I disagree with, and it's food for thought, and I just want to read it because, again, it is that. It's just food for thought here, but it's going to lead to, something else that I want to say here. Again, this is an anonymous post on Great Awakening, and it said, theory, it may not be planned that Trump wins 2024. In fact, I'm beginning to think that it is not vital. They said, okay, so hear me out. They said, 1, we're watching a movie, and 2, Trump is currently the real president acting as such. Okay? The next section they said, so if we're watching a movie and all the important actors are playing their parts well under control, why would any plan depend upon the variability of an election at this point? It would seem, if we're watching a movie, then all important variables can be accounted for, can be coped with if it falls wrong. An actor/controlled asset replaced, etc. Also, if the next election is vital, wouldn't Q be communicating with us to assist as such? Q has gone dark because we did most of all that's needed for us until the normies awaken. It says suddenly, if Trump is actually doing his second term, he does not get 3 per the rules, assuming we playing fair in that case. That's not true. See, that line isn't true. Legally, he can if he declares an emergency, which he did. He also declared the Insurrection Act, which allowed him to hand things over to the military and then reestablish the title of President of the United States if he chooses to do so in 2024, assuming he wins, which in a legal election he, of course, would because he won the last 2 times. It wraps up here and continues. It says, if we're watching a movie, then we can assume most all individuals with power to affect real outcomes are under control. Maybe the blackmail material is in white hats' hands, and they do what they are told, like how RICO is run. It seems like Trump's first term was to put various last steps in place, Space Force, various executive orders, etc., and now he may only have a small part to play in the final stretch. Q did say that they have plans beyond Trump. If we are watching a movie, all vital variables must be under control at a probably impressive scale, unquote. I have no doubt about particular parts of that. When you take into account illegal immigration, however, and this illegal invasion that is taking place, these organizations, as they even said, are engaging in the RICO statute. This is racketeering. It's human trafficking. And money is being exchanged, both interstate, across the entire nation, and certainly with foreign countries. So, are these organizations going to go down in the future? I sure hope so. They'd better. Are all of these individuals on film who are, typing away on the computers and processing these people, are they going to go to jail for what they've done? I sure hope so. I hope they're not given any kind of a deal whatsoever. My overall point here is this. We can see things working in a particular way, and we can see things happening and not happening. My question is, given the fact that these scenarios, this one in particular that I'm going to reference, has already occurred and not worked out for the American who is defending his own property, what does that mean for the rest of us? What does that mean regarding law enforcement's participation in helping illegals as opposed to helping Americans? You recall the story of the elderly man who's married to an elderly woman in Arizona, and he shot at least one illegal alien who was invading his property, had done so before, and ended up killing this individual who, again, was an illegal and had been arrested before in the United States, was deported, and then was, of course, making their way back in. The property owner in the Arizona on that Arizona ranch was arrested. A GoFundMe page was set up, or a Give Send Go, or whatever the hell, and then he was bailed out of jail, took at least $1 million. You may recall that story. That could very easily be you or me. That could be any of us. So then what? Which leads me to this. When do triggers get pulled? They've already been pulled. But when do they get pulled? How much is enough? When they start wandering around your neighborhood? When they start wandering through your backyard? Because as I said, they don't adhere to sidewalks. They'll use train tracks to walk. They'll use... They have no concept of private property. These people can't read. So they'll just meander in and about homes and whatever else while your kids are playing out in the street. When do triggers get pulled? When is enough enough? Because if I live in a small town in southwest Ohio, and it's happening here, and I can see it with my own eyes, I can only imagine what it's like where you live. So again, I'm throwing that out there because I'm asking the simple question. This is our homeland. We get to defend it from all enemies, foreign and domestic. It says so in the Constitution. So now what? We're seeing more and more videos of us being invaded. This bothers me. This bothers me greatly. It should bother everybody. So when is enough enough? Can we honestly trust local police to do the right thing? Can we trust them to show up in time? Can we trust them to deport these individuals? Or are they just going to give them a bus ticket so that they can go somewhere else and victimize someone else? That's already happening. I mean, for Christ's sake, Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis were one of the first few, at least publicly, to openly traffic children. And they're governors. What does that say about that? What does that say about that political position? That trafficking humans as a governor is allowed, in particular children. We're going to send them to New York. We're going to send them to Kamala Harris's front porch. Send them back. Send them back. Because you'd better believe that at least one of those individuals who was sent by Abbott and DeSantis and all the organizations that they're associated with, and we know who they are, you can bet that at least one of them has killed, raped, or maimed someone. Which, doesn't that make Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis culpable in that crime? Not to mention, from a communication standpoint, okay, I want to take this to just one more level here, and then I'm going to move on to education and jab-related stuff, because there's a great deal to get to. Shouldn't shock anybody, but, it's interesting. If communication goes down, and this is one of those things, again, that's consistently being discussed, and it's not new, and it's always been discussed, and again, it's one of the many plays in the playbook that the enemy has at their disposal. Just yanking on the power, turning the power off for days, weeks, if not a month at a time. All hell starts to break loose. That means that I can't say the things that I'm saying on this show and getting the word out. No one else can either. And everybody is stuck to their own devices, which means then what happens? It's not just you within your own environment, it's you and your neighbors. It's the people who live around you if people live around you. These are the people, again, too, that you're going to have to either communicate with, warn, or whatever it may be. But if the power were to go out for longer than, say, 2 days, you'd better start going door to door, or at least barricading yourself into your own property or wherever it is that you live, because, again, it's going to be the people who want something that are going to try to come and take it from you. And this is, again, going to pose numerous problems. So in a situation like that, you have to assume that the good guys know that is a viable scenario. Is that a scenario that has to be played out in order to wake other people up? Yes, it does. I'm afraid so. I'm afraid that we have to see it. We saw the COVID hoax. We saw that entire response. Now, if you pull the power, that means that, again, no one can access their banks. No one can access money. You can't access your own business because the lights won't turn on. So then what is everybody doing? They're driving around, except they don't want to waste gas. So they'll reach that wavelength of thought, and then they'll say, wait, we can't leave. Then everybody's staying generally where they live. That would force a level of communication that hasn't necessarily happened, certainly at the local level among particular neighbors. The problem is there would be a massive conversational divide, I'll say, that would certainly take place among neighbors that would be remarkably interesting. You would have individuals, again, attempting to reach out to others, because, again, cell phones wouldn't work either, so we have to take that into consideration. But they wouldn't be able to reach family members. They wouldn't be able to say, well, my family member said this, or my friend over here said that, because, again, people won't want to travel. So they're only left to what is inside of their own head, what they believe to be true, and then the people around them outside of their immediate property and what it is that they are doing. But it's going to be the people who want to take are going to be the people who commit the most crime in a situation like that. Now, I fully understand, again, I know I'm bouncing around here a little bit, but it all connects in my strange mind. If it's said in Q posts that all of that was done in an attempt to prevent a civil war, which, again, certainly has been the case. You had to wake up the vast majority of people and deprogram them, and those Q posts did that. And those Q posts made people remarkably vigilant as well. This is not a bad thing. This is a very good thing. Those people are now gun owners. Those people have storable food, storable water. These people tend to be more prepared. Like, again, myself, hopefully, but there will be cracks in the foundation to some extent. But either way, if that hadn't happened and the power got pulled, you would have chaos the likes of which you couldn't possibly imagine, because you wouldn't have people know what's going on. Now we know this is a viable scenario, which means it's likely that it would occur. Certainly plausible, if not downright going to happen. And then you would have more individuals know what's actually taking place, which means they would help and be able to help their fellow neighbors in certain situations, again, depending on where you live and what's going on. That would get messy, though. It would still get messy. And I'm not necessarily saying from a violent standpoint. I mean, you know who to talk to and who not to. You know who would be willing to accept particular things and who wouldn't. However, if everybody was experiencing the same thing again, not the COVID nonsense, although they're going to try that again, I think, too, but a power outage. It's just a card that they haven't played yet. If that card gets played, it's going to force communication again at the local level, the likes of which would be astounding. Because even city councils wouldn't be able to do anything. Even local law enforcement wouldn't necessarily be able to do anything. They wouldn't be able to access gasoline either. That would, of course, also panic city councils and mayor's offices because they're the ones that always want to have control over everything. And they would look incompetent because they would have no way of communicating with anyone else. Not that we would necessarily do what they say, because we certainly wouldn't. Look what they all did over the last 3 years. I mean, we wouldn't listen to these people anyway. But the useless eaters and the useful idiots, so to speak, would certainly reach out to them and say, oh, please, mayor's office, what can we do? You know, do something for us to help us. There's nothing that they would be able to do. We would be left to our own devices. No internet, nothing. No cell phones, none of that. It would certainly get very interesting very quickly, is my overall point. It would get very interesting. And I just think that we have to see it. I think that a scenario like that has to play out in order for people to wake up, and then the blame has to be placed on the correct individuals and the correct organizations and who's actually doing this. And that question right there, who is actually doing this? That would almost have to happen on Joe Biden's watch because people believe he's the president. So with that happening on his watch, again, it would have to wake some people up. People would have to start wondering who's really in control, what the hell's really going on. This is a scenario, again, that I think has to exist. So to put this to bed just for this particular episode, I would simply say we have to keep using our eyes. We have to keep our eyes peeled all of the time. What is it that we are noticing? What is it that we are seeing? What are we hearing? Is all of that matching up or is it not? Are we seeing things come down or are we seeing things be erected in a bad direction? What's occurring here? These are the gauges that we have to make, I think, and these are the particular moves that we have to pay attention to. So, there you go. We're being invaded. There's no way around it. I'm certain, again, that a lot of these people are being tracked. Again, if they have cell phones, they have to be tracked. But we also know that there are numerous intake facilities that exist. There's one in the town where my brother lives. He didn't even know it was there. This giant gate around it, security guards outside. I've brought that up before on the show, but it's, central Ohio. This is just occurring all over the place. So, yeah. Vigilance has to be at the forefront here, without a doubt. And since the weather is getting warmer, we have to prepare particular things in particular ways because, again, if they pull something like this when it's colder out, it's going to make things a little more difficult. It's going to make things difficult for people to move around, to get things done on their property the way that they need to get things done. And I think we have to take advantage of the time because, again, it's war. And that's not going away anytime soon. So there you go. That's my 2 cents. Then again, I could be wrong. Okay. Education-related things. Couple of headlines here. This shouldn't shock anybody either. This comes from the Gateway Pundit, unfortunately. And again, they don't necessarily connect all the dots, certainly not in the right direction, but here's a simple dot we can connect. The American Library Association and the Association of American Publishers join lawsuit over Arkansas's ban on libraries providing obscene books to minors. So if you think the American Library Association and associated associations are on your side, I assure you they are not. They've shown their true colors and who they are. Now, who's the president of the American Library Association, you might ask? Well, I'll give you one guess. As to their heritage also. Her name is Emily Drabinsky. You guessed it, Drabinsky. And she's a lesbian, just to top things off. She is in charge of the she's the president of the American Library Association, has been for a little while here. And she assumed the office just this year, as it turns out. Funny. If you were to bounce over to her Wikipedia page, it says a number of very interesting things, if it can be taken seriously, but it does say this. It says, in an interview with the Toledo Blade, Drabinsky acknowledged her comments on Twitter and called them an excited utterance, quote unquote. She also said that she is not a evil Marxist lesbian, quote unquote, who wants to make other Marxists, but wants to promote and build enthusiasm for quote unquote amazing work by librarians across the United States. She also argued that she is still a professional, regardless of these political views that she has. Previously, in June of 2020, she stated that current library classification has, quote-unquote, no language for queer people because queer identity terms change so quickly, and said that such classification requires fixed language and there's no way to change it quickly. She currently lives in Brooklyn with her partner Karen Miller, also Jewish, and their teenage son, which of course they didn't make, and to top it all off, their 3 cats. This is your enemy, ladies and gentlemen. This is your enemy as I'm rubbing my temples, this right here. They have a firm grip of the particular establishments that all work with one another, within one another, and it's not going away. Cicely moved this my way. This is from One America News. It is titled, Texas Approves Bill for Armed Guards at All Schools. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the police state is certainly here. And if they think that that's going to make these environments more safe, it won't. It's just visual eye candy to give people the illusion of a safe environment. And of course, this particular article is based on the fact that they believe that Uvalde occurred, which of course it did not. It says, in reaction to the Uvalde tragedy last year, Texas lawmakers sent a comprehensive school safety bill to Governor Greg Abbott on Sunday. The legislation calls for posting of armed security guards and officers, at every Texas school, and the provision of mental health training for certain district personnel. It also increases the state's authority to compel school districts to develop active shooter strategies. Do you see the slippery slope here? This is not good. None of this is good. They're going to manufacture more false flags. They will have more taping, more videotapes of these staged events. They will wait on them, sit on them, work them around, edit them, and then put them out to the media as if they are the truth, when in fact they are not. It then says this, quote, it is time to act, said Republican Representative Ken King before the vote was taken. We need to prevent the next Uvalde. We most certainly do, but not in the ways that they think. We need to get as many of these Freemasons on a chopping block as humanly possible and get rid of them. Freemasonry is the problem here. All of this is the problem. As long as legislation is written into law, based on a lie, we're never going to win. We'll never win. Almost every piece of legislation that has been written, at the very least, since 9/11. I mean, we can go back way further than that. I fully understand, but 1913 and so on and so forth. But every single piece is based on a lie. All of it. It continues, it says the Senate has removed the requirement for an armed person to be present on every school campus earlier in the session, but the requirement was reenacted during the bargaining process. According to the statute, the required armed individual may also be a peace officer, school resource officer, school marshal, or an employee of the school district. That would be the cheapest way. An employee of the school district just having a teacher with a gun. I mean, even so, you've heard me say that's not a good idea either, but yeah. It's horrible. Opponents of the bill who maintained throughout the legislative session that fewer weapons, not more, are the answer to mass shootings, which hardly exist if it exists at all, were especially alarmed by the clause. Nevertheless, it says the House still passed the bill by a surprisingly wide margin of 93 to 49. Representative Vicki Goodwin, a Democrat from Austin, Texas, had argued that putting armed guards at schools would put students in more danger rather than protecting them. Well, they're always in danger from what they're being taught. But, yeah. In an effort to reduce confusion while responding to an emergency, each district would also be obliged to provide the Department of Public Safety and other law enforcement agencies with the tour and map of each campus. That's not good either. Mass surveillance, police state, that's all this is. That's all it is. And again, they continue to ramble on about Uvalde. Oh, it could have been prevented. Had we known what the outlook of the building looked like and other people known, that wouldn't have happened. Give me a flippin' break. Give me a break. Oh, it's just so frustrating and exhausting. Sorry. It's kind of the mood right now. But I'm going to end the episode on a positive note. I truly will. It's a rather nice audio that I have to play, so stay tuned. Here's another one from the Gateway Pundit, titled New Hampshire School District Using $4,000 in COVID Relief Funds to Pay for High School Drag Show. Because why not? In fact, I'm not even going to get into that story. It pretty much just speaks for itself. And don't think for a minute that this is the only school district who did that with a COVID cash. I'm sure it was many. There were two particular segments that I was considering having on the show. And I was just going to do them once per week. The first one, which I was actually having a really nice laugh about, the segment was going to be called Why Alan Dershowitz is an Ass. And then all I was going to do was, just for that segment, play a clip of Alan Dershowitz putting his foot in his mouth and being a complete pathological liar. It's remarkably easy to do because he lies through his teeth. The second segment was going to be called This Week's Segment in Everything's Gay, and it was just going to be stories like this. Because these are so abundant that I really don't want it to be a constant thing on the show. I would rather just sort of knock it down to one sort of comical / depressing segment of the show once per week anyway. But I don't know, just as potential comic relief maybe. Yeah, it's so stupid. It's just so dumb. There was this too. This was from over a month ago. I wanted to bring this to everybody's attention. This was last May from Yahoo Finance of all places. So I'll preface the headline by saying, whatever you do, don't let your children drink this under any circumstance, in particular, again, if they attend a K-12 public school. The title, Michelle Obama announces the launch of Plezi Nutrition, Plezi, a public benefit company with a purpose to help raise a healthier generation of kids. Ladies and gentlemen, if Big Mike is working with a company to put together a drink to give children in American K-12 schools, you need to not drink it under any circumstance. In fact, you probably shouldn't even dump it down the toilet or down a sink. You might not even want to pour it on your grass in your lawn because it'll kill the grass. Who knows? You may be able to toss it in the engine of your car and drive wherever you want. Whatever it is, it's going to be poison. We can almost assure ourselves of that, can we not? So it's called Plezi, Plezi. Yeah, nutrition-related health crisis we are suffering from, and kids are not getting the recommended levels of nutrients they need. So we are going to have a transsexual tell everybody exactly how to make themselves healthier. I can't think of a better role model for nutrition and the well being of children. Can you? It really is gross. It's just disgusting. Again, Plezzy. Don't drink it. Sounds like poison. Okay, jab related things. This is big. This is real big. This comes from the Substack of Mind Matters and Everything Else with Dr. Joseph Sansone. And it is titled from May 26th, Pfizer data attached 393 pages of adverse events. Shame, shame. Order of magnitude of adverse events off the charts. Remember the 9 pages of adverse events from a year ago approximately that came out and were bouncing around and making the rounds? I went through that document. I said that the first 5 had to do with cognitive decline. They were all in alphabetical order, if memory serves. They may or may not have been, but either way, they were all single-spaced and all crammed together in 9 pages. Well, now, there's not 9 pages anymore. There's 393 pages. I have the PDF. The PDF is also embedded within the Substack article. I have made this document available on my website, AmericanEducationFM.com. It's under the medical documents section. Bounce over there and check it out and download it if you're interested. They are all in alphabetical order. And it's overwhelming. It makes the 9 pages look like child's play. It also breaks it down based on spontaneous or non-interventional studies that have occurred with this, apparently, and attempts to break it down by seriousness also. None of it's good. I mean, it's all terrible. You're talking about every possible human condition that could possibly happen at the most micro level within the human body. It is frightening. At the beginning of the Substack, it says the following. It says, "These were not provided to me by Pfizer, but through a source through the EMA. I have no reason to doubt this document. Treat it as you wish. Assuming this source through the EMA is providing an accurate document, and it sure appears as such, a lot of horrific conclusions should follow. Spend time looking at it and let the weight of the conclusions sink in." What we can assume is that this document was compiled as a result of the hospital system and the medical system knowing who has taken the shots and who hasn't. So every single time that a person enters a health facility with an ailment, they can look up and see whether or not they're jabbed. And then they'll ask about their history and say, well, did you have this before this particular time period? If the answer is no, and it's a new ailment of some kind, you can assume it's jab related. I think we can make that leap. It's not a large leap to make, but certainly a plausible one. I find this strange in their Substack, however, this Dr. Sansone. Right before he starts listing total numbers of these particular ailments. So, for example, it says total number of adverse events is 1,591,026, interval, and then 4,964,106 cumulative. Before he says this, he has a paragraph here that doesn't fit, and it makes zero sense. It says the following, you can't make this up. He says, quote, "Also, the Holocaust is real and was devastatingly horrific. I hate any anti-Semites truly. I hate colonial slavery, glad it was abolished and women should vote. I'm Christian Catholic and believe in God. There you have it. You can try to discredit me for those things or other if you wish. But if you do, I will know you don't want to discuss the below." What? Is he feeling okay? What does one thing have to do with the other? Why is he saying the Holocaust is real, and if you don't want to discuss the facts, well, then you don't know what the hell's going on? I mean, did he take the jabs? Is he feeling okay? This is nuts. Anyway, with his false sense of history aside for a minute, the document is an interesting one. And again, it shouldn't surprise anybody. We're talking about ailments as small as hearing impairment, and even, which isn't small, and that's a big deal, and vision impairment, right up to, of course, your skin falling off of your entire body, and of course, dying. So yeah, either way, I have that giant PDF on my website over under the medical documents tab if you're interested in checking it out. Allow me to read this now. This is Mike Eden, Dr. Mike Eden on Telegram, and I follow him over there. And here's what he says. He provides a bit of an overview from the power grab from the WHO, of course, in their pandemic treaty and all of that ridiculous nonsense. So here's what he said. He said, quote, "This is a useful overview of a good person with whom I share the same concerns. The WHO's pandemic treaty and the separate international health regulations, as amended from time to time, together create an extraordinarily wide transfer of personal sovereignty to a faceless bureaucracy on grounds of fake concern for your health and that of other people and animals, farmed and wild, and plants, ditto. It says, under a rubbish label called One Health, quote unquote, absolutely everything that happens on Earth, directly or indirectly, could be argued as representing a risk to health of something or somebody, and so a suitable topic for being interfered with. It says the whole nation is just plausible enough to be quite difficult to counter. A most irksome factor is that many people can see that what they do might adversely affect others. This is, of course, not new. It's always been true. It was true before various UN conventions in human rights. No objection was made back then in agreeing that each human being had inalienable rights. It says, so pointing out now the concept that my choices could adversely impact other people and other living things causes me to shrug and remind people this isn't some qualitatively new risk. One could argue about the extent to which our choices adversely affect others. I notice that the occasions where this is strikingly obvious already has treaties, laws, and regulations recognizing and governing them. For example, war in its broadest sense, pollutants, assault, chemicals, biological and nuclear weapons, and so on. Despite or arguably because that interconnectedness has existed to various extents forever, without an overarching treaty granting hideous powers over us, tells us that the grounds they're using to justify this extraordinary power grab are completely bogus and originate not in some desire to improve your life or that of your family. On the contrary, a person who would need to have two fingers jammed in your ears and be wearing a blindfold not to appreciate that this is nothing less than the oldest trick in the book of how some humans force themselves on others, show them a fearful threat, and demand that, being the only person or group who can rally the necessary resources to keep you safe, quote unquote, insist on setting themselves up as king or capo. Naturally, this works out provided you don't challenge them, whereupon the police battens the CS gas, confirms most empathetically that it's their show, not yours, and you've to shut up or else. No compromise with this agenda is possible. I used to think that if you behave reasonably, everything can be ironed out if you speak long enough and in good faith. That doesn't work when the counterparty wants permanently to deprive you, rather, of your liberty and probably your life. Nobody is coming to save us, but we can collectively force these evil people away, provided everybody takes whatever action they can as to what the action should be. At a very minimum, telling 10 other people about this impending power grab is a good start. What can I do about it, quote unquote, asked 8 billion people. Best wishes, Mike. He's right, and again, the concept of mass noncompliance has got to be the thing that continues to move forward here. As you've heard me say, more and more people are in fact awake. And if a particular power grab were to occur, we would have to assume that just based on basic math and personal experience, less people would be likely to believe it. Yes, the useful idiots who rely on government will take it hook, line, and sinker yet again. But business owners should have learned from the last time, because of course many of them lost their businesses. Endless people should have learned from the last time. This is not going to go away. There will be those who are awake, and I believe that there are more of them. But as we know, there are still plenty that rely heavily on government to tell them what to do, how to live their lives, and if they need help, it isn't they themselves that rely on their own education or their own ability to think as an individual to arrive at a logical answer. They look to government, local government, state government, federal government, hospitals, you name it, in order to provide them an answer. And as we know, that answer is getting people killed, and continues to be the case. But again, those of us who knew what this was from the start and tried to warn people and did so, and were of course ridiculed and made fun of and mocked and slandered and libeled and whatever else, and have no recourse as a result. We just continue to be proven correct every single day. One article after another, one peer-reviewed article after another, one study after another. This comes from Pat Webb, at Pat Webb Jr. on Twitter. This is from the Threadreader app. It says, breaking, the European Union is now warning pregnant women not to get the COVID-19 vaccine due to the possibility of infertility and miscarriage. Jeez. I know a guy who warned a lot of people about that 2 years ago. Strange. The European Medicines Agency, the EMA, has admitted that COVID-19 vaccines, not a vaccine, bioweapon, can have an adverse effect on female fertility. It has been revealed in confidential Pfizer documents that shedding of the COVID-19 vaccine is possible by skin-to-skin contact and or breathing the same air as the vaccinated person and can lead to menstrual cycle disruption among women and miscarriage among pregnant women. Before I continue, what they just described with those two false forms of transmission is not really skin-to-skin contact and breathing the same air. When you hear that, understand that that's not really how anything is transmitted. It's transmitted via proximity. That's it. There's nothing traveling in the air that's getting people sick, and there's no skin-to-skin contact per se. It's proximity. It's electromagnetism. That's what causes it. That's why doctors who are unjabbed, who are around jabbed people, patients, nurses, whoever it may be, if that doctor is not jabbed, that doctor is being shed on. This is happening with regularity. It's happening constantly. Individuals in the workplace who are not jabbed, who are around people who are jabbed. It's not because they're touching each other. There's nothing on the skin that causes the transmission. But it is, again, based on electromagnetism, which, as we know, is no different than putting a battery in a radio and turning it on. If the battery is up against the springs and it's turned on, well, that's going to have an impact on electricity, is it not? Sure. It continues here. It says the EMA published new guidance that states that, quote, heavy menstrual bleeding should be added to the product information as a side effect of unknown frequency of the mRNA COVID-19 vaccines Comirnaty Pfizer and Spikevax Moderna. Here's an admission that COVID-19 vaccines can have an adverse effect on the fertility of women. Continues, blah, blah, blah. It says the study published in 2016 found that alterations to a woman's regular menstrual cycle are associated with reduced fertility and have a negative effect on the chances of getting pregnant. And then, of course, it has a giant chart here regarding fetal deaths from individuals who have been jabbed. When their parents have been jabbed, we know that children have died via breast milk from the pregnant/jabbed birthing females, and so on and so on. It's not new to us. It's just not new to us. We knew that this was happening. We knew this was going to happen. When you hear the phrase spike proteins, you should instantly think AIDS and all of the syndromes associated with that, which infertility is certainly one of them. It's depopulation. There's just no way around it. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, here is some audio from a man by the name of Nick Hudson. Nick is one of the chairmen of an organization called PANDA, P-A-N-D-A, Science Sense Society, it says, S-E-N-S-E. And here's the description below his name. It says, Nick Hudson is an actuary with broad international experience in finance who has settled into a career as a private equity investor. He's a man of wide-ranging interests, an avid reader of canonical literature, a classical music aficionado, and an enthusiastic amateur ornithologist. He's been invited to speak on various topics, including epistemology, corporate governance, investment management, and most recently, the pandemic, quote unquote. So there you go. What he says isn't necessarily anything different than what you've heard here and what you probably already know, but he's right. Certainly from a moral standpoint, that the people who went along with this showed their true colors. That at face value, for anyone, what has gone on over the last 3 years and what is continuing to happen should be wrong to people. It should look wrong, feel wrong, because it is wrong. So I'm going to end the episode with words from him. Give this a listen, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great weekend. Stay vigilant always. And I will catch you on Monday. Peace.
Mandatory vaccination isn't wrong because the vaccines are dangerous or because they're leaky. It's wrong in principle. And banning ivermectin isn't wrong because ivermectin works. It's because doctors should be able to choose what they prescribe to their patients. And the trap illustrates what the problem is for this generation, I believe. They've gone to school where they've been taught the wrong values. All this relativism, the wokeism that they're taught makes them susceptible to some very, very noxious ideas. And the solution to that is to teach values, to teach virtues, to take away the discussion from the world of relativism, the world of utilitarianism, to teach the older ethic, the one that we all lived by until quite recently, that ethic of virtue, the ethic of the principles that we honor and stand up for, like the sacredness of the human individual. Yes, let's take a step back. The general rule of thumb that I believe everybody should adopt is that if any problem is being presented as a global crisis, then it is a scam. And the pattern that we are confronted with is really the fabrication of global crises. The presentation either of non-existent problems or small local problems as being general global crises. That fabrication followed by the assertion that the only solutions that are permissible are global ones that require a global authority, global control. That is the general pattern that we are up against. The COVID policy response was one of those. Look at what happened to countries like Sweden or Tanzania, who tried to push back against the orthodoxy, the new orthodoxy. And the climate crisis, the climate change crisis, is another example where we are told that the biggest threat to the world is this molecule, CO2. And that an increase in the level of this molecule will cause an increase in temperature, and that temperature increase will be bad for us, and that the only thing we can do is consume fewer fossil fuels and less energy. That's fitting the pattern exactly. The other things you can observe is instead of presenting science as an ongoing, evolving activity, it is presented in terms of static knowledge, consensus. And you see the cancellation and censorship of dissident voices rather than engagement with them. These patterns are proof of a scam. That is what people need to understand. Whenever something is presented as the science, as a consensus, it is a scam. You do not have to go and get engaged in all of the minutiae of the scientific principles and the models and the measurements at all. You can know with absolute certainty that you are dealing with a scam when dissent is suppressed.
Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.